Okay, we're live. This is Attorney Vince Davis, and this is Relatives Fight CPS. I'm joined this evening by my co-host, Georgette Truan, who is a prior CPS victim as a mother. And this evening we have a special guest, Tracy. Tracy, now, are you in Minnesota or are you in California?
I'm actually in Florida.
Okay.
The case is actually in Minnesota, my grandkids.
Okay, I got it. So on this show, we talk about primarily people that are relatives or family friends that are trying to get children out of foster care. And I would say maybe 30 to 40%, if not more, of the calls that people call me about are relatives trying to get a child or children out of foster care. Would you agree with that, Georgette?
I agree 100%. Yes.
And, right before the show, I was having a consult with a client, and she has a case here in California, up in Northern California. And I said, are your kids in a relative's home? She said, no. I said, well, why not? She said, well, the social worker told me that they can't place the children in any relative's home. And I said, what? I said, that's not the law. I said, the law is actually the exact opposite. And I cited her to a section in California, and I'm sure your state has a similar section, Welfare and Institutions Code Section 309, which basically says that the social worker has to place the children with a relative. So one of the things that I do, and I'm going to say it again, I say it almost every show that I do, make a list of 25 family, friends, and relatives, and have your attorney go over that list and give it to the social worker. They have a duty under federal regulations to investigate those people and make a decision about placing the children there. Now, social workers can say no to one or two people, but 25? And in cases where the mother or the father get along with the other parent, I suggest that they talk to their attorney about doing the same thing. So sometimes we get, when there's two parents, we get 50 names. And then when there's two fathers, more than one kid, two fathers, we get 75 names. I once had a judge accuse me, when I turned in a list of 25 people, accused me on the record of harassing the social worker.
Wow.
And I tried to politely say, well, Your Honor, Section 309 is not limited to the number of relatives. And we know that, the social workers like to say no. They like to keep these kids in foster homes, right? Well, how am I harassing if I give a list of 25 names? So what happened in that case is the judge ordered that the social worker check out one name at a time, right? And that we'd come back to court in a few weeks, but only one name at a time. Well, guess what? The social worker approved the first name, which she had previously rejected. And I think that the social worker didn't want to spend hours investigating the other 24 people, some of which lived out of the county and some of which lived out of the state. Mm-hmm. And there were a couple that even lived in another country. So they didn't want to go through that hassle, I guess. And they just decided, that grandma that lives down the street and around the block, who we said no to the first time, she's okay. Mm-hmm. We thought about it a second time, and guess what? She's okay. So, Tracy, I want you to tell us your story. I know Georgette has heard it, but I haven't heard it. So tell us why you're here and what's happening to you. And by the way, we don't mention names, okay?
I'll try not to.
All right. So go ahead.
Actually, my two grandsons got taken away from my son and his girlfriend. And when it happened, well, actually, I should tell you, 4 months before it happened, this same caseworker came to my home, wanted to see this child. And I asked the mom, and she said, yeah, go ahead. She had see no problem. She came there. She looked at him, said, he looks good. And I was just kind of thought it was weird anyways. But at the end of it, she looked at me and she goes, and we live in a small town, so people know each other. But she looked at me and she says, try not to say the name. If you ever notice anything about the mother, like if she's on drugs or abusive or anything like that, will you call me right away? And I'm like, why would I do that? Why are you saying this? And she just goes, and she told me, how'd she say it at the end of her sentence before her and this other lady left? She said, I guarantee you, if you call me about so-and-so, the mother, that I will take that child from her right away. I was like, what? The whole thing was just really weird. Okay, well, later I found out why. But so comes, my son got in trouble, and the mother and the child were in the vehicle. The mother did not do anything wrong, but they took the child anyways. And they recorded the whole thing, the vehicle being searched, everything. I called right away to the caseworker and I said, hey, can I get the baby right now tonight? And they said, no, he has to go in foster care. Call me Monday. So Monday came, I couldn't get a hold of her. Tuesday came, I got a hold of her, and she tells me that the foster parents, whoever they are, we still don't know to this day, found a meth pipe in the diaper bag. Well, I know that's not true. It was searched. My sister actually packed the diaper bag because they'd been living the same with my mother. We know 100% it wasn't true. And I asked her, I said, well, what happened to the videotape when you searched? She goes, well, we can't find it. I was like, oh. So that's where it all started. They got on the CPS case. Kids did great. And then after they got the last time they took the kids away from them, because they got them back and then they took them again, it was from a false UA. And we have the lab, now that we got the discoveries, we have the lab work showing that she did not flunk it or anything, but that's why they took them. So I'm trying to get the kids still. And I have contacted them because now they're putting them up for adoption at this point. And this has been going on for 2 years. And I kept contacting them. I'd leave voicemails. I'd call. I'd go up there because I was living in Minnesota up until a year ago. And they just would not return my phone calls, nothing. Finally, I got a hold of the director, and she finally called me back after I left her 3 voicemails. And she just flat told me, we aren't considering you. That's all she would say. And I was like, I don't have no record. Yeah.
All right, stop. Because I need to jump in here and I need to say some things first. Okay. I hope you have a pen and a piece of paper, but if you don't, you can watch the recording on one of the social media platforms that we're live streaming to now. Okay. First of all, I want to answer Nikki Hart's question that's right on the screen. They told me my sister couldn't have him because she is in another state. All right. Nikki, that is a lie. It's a false representation by the social worker, or it's a social worker telling you something mistakenly, but it's a big mistake. There's something in the United States called the Interstate Compact for the Placement of Children, ICPC. And it's a law among all the states that if a child is taken away from someone, say, for example, in California, and the nearest relatives might be in New York, it's a process and a system to get that child placed in New York. What a lot of social workers believe that or want is they don't want the child moved to New York. They kind of lose control of the case because New York social workers take it over. And guess what happens to the federal money that the county and these states get? It follows the child, right? Most of the federal money follows the child, as well it should be, right? So why would a social worker want a child placed from California in New York? Many, many people tell me, Mr. Davis, my mother lives in, Maine, all right? And the social worker said we can't place the child there because she lives too far away. That's false. And Tracy, this is what I want to tell you and Nikki. If this ever happens to you, and I want to tell everybody in the audience, you need to immediately, number one, get an attorney to represent you. Don't rely on the social worker. First of all, social workers only make recommendations. They don't make decisions. The decision to place your child, your grandchild with you is up to the judge. Now, here's where you were shortcutted. The social worker said no, and you didn't go to court. You probably didn't file a motion. You didn't file the appropriate paperwork and evidence to get the child placed with you. But here's the other thing, and this is the most important thing because it really hits the counties and the states where they are concerned about, and that's the pocketbook. Because of the law is written the way it is and the federal regulations the way it is, the social workers better be going out of their way to place these kids with relatives and family friends. And what I tell people all the time is that you need to make a complaint, an official complaint, with the United States Department of Health and Human Services. These complaints are thoroughly investigated, and I've read a couple of opinions or findings or investigative reports, and these federal people they're deadly on county social workers that don't place kids with relatives. They don't care where the relative lives, even in another country. Because what you don't know, or what you may know, is that most countries in the Western world have CPS. And there's an international treaty among these countries under something called the Hague Convention that allows for the placement of children in that other country. I was recently on a case where children went to Switzerland. And being in Southern California, a lot of times cases are referred to what's called DIF. That's CPS in Mexico. So they do investigations. So if you live in another state, that's not a reason for the child to be placed there. And if the social worker tells you that and you don't get an attorney and go to court to challenge that, you're probably not going to get the child when you should. So Tracy, you were going to say something. Go ahead and tell me what you were going to say.
Yeah. What ended up happening is this went on for quite a while. I didn't know the law and I couldn't afford an attorney. So I was at the courthouse and I talked to the court administrator lady, and she actually told me, you need to file what's it called? What's it called?
Intervene.
Yes. A motion to intervene. So that's what I did finally. And when I filed that, I got in. So I've just finally in January, I found that out and I did that. And so I'm in there now, but they're still trying to get the foster mother. They want the foster mother that the child's in now, and they want him adopted, or they want them to adopt him. And the reason they're using is because my son also has another child with another girl, and that child, the mother gave temporary custody of that child to this foster lady because she got in trouble too. They're using that, and they keep telling the judge that it's permanent custody, and we keep telling them it's not permanent custody. That child isn't going to be there. So they're using it as a relative thing. And so they're fighting for the foster parents to take them.
So is there any way, now the case is in Minnesota, right?
Yep. And I did my ICPCs all done. I'm foster parent licensed, everything now.
Your ICPC was approved?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So Tracy, I'm going to beg you have to get an attorney in Minnesota.
What do you do if you don't have the money that they want? Because they want $10,000 down. I only found 3 of them that would do it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's like I tried to sell my car for $10,000 and I couldn't get it. So
right,
it's like, what do you do?
That's the problem. It's I hear that all the time. It's the money. Earlier today, a guy called our office and he was complaining at the price we quoted him, but I'm in Southern California, right?
Yeah.
And he wanted me to come, I think it was Kentucky. He wanted me to come to Kentucky, travel, hotel, rent a car, meals,
Yep.
and do his case
Yeah.
for $1,500.
Yeah.
It's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go broke.
Yeah.
I would, and you wouldn't be seeing me on this video,
Yeah.
right? So it does cost a lot of money. I'm not sure what they're charging in Minnesota, but if they all told you $10,000 for the case, that's probably going to be a fair price.
That was 10,000 down to start
Right.
it. And then of course they would require travel too, because the place where it is, it's about 5 hours from where all these attorneys are too. So
Yeah.
you got to pay for that. But that's why I've been trying to research a lot and listen to a lot of your videos, stuff like that, try and help myself. But there's only so much you can do.
Right. There's only so much you can do. The problem is that you can watch my videos forever. What they're not going to give you, because you didn't go to law school and you don't have experience representing people in these CPS courts, they're not going to teach you all the law that you need to know. They're not going to teach you all the procedural law that you need to know. They're not going to teach you all the evidentiary law you need to know. They're not going to teach you all the case law that you need to know, and the court rules, and I can go on and on.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's the danger. People think that they can watch these videos and then they can represent themselves.
Yeah.
Does it ever work for people? Yeah. A few people tell me they use what they saw in the video, but I do these videos for educational purposes only. I don't want people to watch these and go act like they're an attorney, because that's not the purpose of it. But what a lot of people are doing also is they're doing GoFundMe, that type of thing, to help raise money for for an attorney. And then someone told me about a raffle. They were in another state. They didn't have the money, and their employer put up some type of prize, and they sold raffle tickets, and they raised like $7,000-8,000. So people are finding creative ways to raise the money, but it does cost money for these attorneys to go there. Yeah. But I can tell you, you need to think of some ways, because if you don't get one of those attorneys, your chances of getting this child placed with you become very slim. I mean, I hate to say that, but that's one of the reasons why I told you to file the complaint with the federal government, Department of Health and Human Services, because they could come down, swoop down, and really wreak some havoc. But more and more people are filing those complaints. We're in the middle of COVID. Things aren't happening fast enough. Next thing you know, the kid's adopted before that investigation ever starts.
I did file a complaint, and I'm not sure if maybe it wasn't the right one that you're talking about, but it was the Board of Social Workers, I believe it said. Wrong one?
I'm not talking. So, remember from civics, we have two forms of government, the state governments and then the federal government.
Yeah.
Well, the Department of Health and Human Services is a federal agency. Okay. And as a matter of fact, most of the money that runs all of these CPS courts and social workers, that's all federal money that's not donated, but given to the states and the counties by the Department of Health and Human Services. This is all federal money that's doing all of this. And they have some very strict regulations. Now, what happens is that when you start filtering down to the counties and the states, sometimes they do stuff that's not following the regulations. They're just like anybody else.
Yeah.
Things change, and they decide to do things their own way. You got to hold their feet to the fire.
Yeah.
The reason why this whole system nationwide is even constitutional is because there is a requirement that kids be placed with family and family friends first and foremost before anyone else.
So I have a question. Do all social workers have to be licensed social workers?
I don't know the answer to that question, because it's probably different state to state, county to county. But the way they do it in California is you don't have to be a licensed social worker through the state. You can just be a social worker hired by the county and they call you, you're a social worker.
Really? Wow. Sorry. Mom. Sorry.
That's all right.
That's not my phone. Shut it off real fast. Sorry.
I thought that was Georgette's phone.
Of course.
No, it was my mother's. She left it out here.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm just teasing. Go ahead. So no, they don't have to have that license through the state, right? But I think they get some type of certification just by being hired by the county to be a social worker. And don't get me wrong, there are qualifications, both educational and sometimes experience. But these social workers are supposed to have certain minimum qualifications before they can, be a CPS social worker where they go out and,
Yeah.
protect children.
Yeah. They have even made me go to the clinic and take a UA so I could see my grandkid.
Yeah,
I took it. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I passed, obviously, but I just couldn't believe, why am I taking a UA? What did I do wrong?
sometimes they look for or they see child abuse or possible child abuse under every rock, right? But I know a law firm in Minneapolis, Minnesota, that does this type of work. How far are you from there?
Well, it's about 5 hours from there to up to where Thief River is. But my son actually is only about an hour from there. So if I flew in, I would probably fly into Minneapolis anyways. But
Oh, that's right. You're not even in Minnesota. Where
no,
are
I'm
you?
in Florida. I'm in Florida.
Oh, what part?
Down about an hour from Orlando, right by the ocean on the Gulf Coast.
Okay. I was seeing some disturbing statistics about your state on this COVID variant D thing. I think I think you guys were at the top of the list as the number one state with new cases or something.
Well, I got my shots.
Congratulations.
I'm sure to get them just so in case I get to see the boys or something. They can't use that against me even. So.
Right. Oh, and by the way, if they could, they would.
Oh, I know. I already thought of it.
yeah.
I got my paperwork and everything.
Oh, yeah. I've heard many people complain that social workers won't let them visit or see the child or be around the child because they haven't had their immunization, their vaccine shot, or that there just is going to be a risk of transmission.
But I do notice they let them go to daycare with all these other kids and everything. That's fine. You can't see anyone else.
They can see the parents.
Yep.
One of the things I tell Georgette all the time, if you're looking for something that's reasonable or something that's logical or makes sense, you're always going to be frustrated because you don't know what's going through these people's mind, right? They have their own agenda, and it's not going to be the agenda all the time that you wish they had. So don't try to make sense of this.
Yeah.
Focus on getting the child back.
Yeah.
Anything else on your case that you wanted to ask about?
Yeah, I have 100 questions. Do you have that much time?
Questions, young lady, not 100.
Okay.
Actually, no, you have 12 questions.
I know she told me 10.
Yeah,
And
11 questions.
Well, we have about 36 minutes left.
Well, okay. Let me
So let's just start, at the top and let's go through them.
Okay. I have a question. Okay, so is there a way to, I'm sure there has to be, but this report that we have from the lab saying the opposite of what the caseworker says, and they won't, and like the prosecuting attorney and the case manager will not bring it up to the judge or anything. Is there a way for me to get that to the judge so they know about it?
I don't think so, and let me tell you why. All right. These cases are divided into different sections. I call them modules. And there's usually 1 to 6 modules in every case. Now, what people do is they come to me in about module 4 or 5, complaining about module 1. Module 1 is over and done with. So you talking to me about module 1 is a waste of time, because there's nothing you can do, or if you were a parent, nothing you can do to change it. If you didn't appeal module 1 and win, it's over, it's done with. Let's talk about module 4 or module 5, wherever
But
you
what
are.
if you didn't know about it and it was like okay, so they take your kids away for this reason that they said they took them away for. Later, when you finally, after everything's over, you get all these discoveries, and it's showing right there that they came and took your kids. They never should have, because it was false. I mean, it was all. I mean, there was nothing.
You do have a remedy, and that's to file against them in federal court for civil rights violations. That's tomorrow's show, by the way, at 7 p.m.
Oh, okay.
But in this case, in your CPS case, you got to focus on the module, because every module is different. They're different laws, different standards, right? Evidentiary standards, sometimes different procedures. So what happens is that people come to me and they say, hey, Mr. Davis, tomorrow they're terminating my parental rights. But they didn't have a right to take the kid away to begin with. And I find it very difficult sometimes to tell them, I'm really sorry. You're talking to me about the wrong thing. There's nothing you can do. See, people think just in their heart of hearts that they understand what justice is, right? And I have a video on that on my YouTube channel. Justice isn't what you think it is. It's not. And if you keep thinking that it should be, you're not going to prevail in your case.
Yeah.
In my video, I say, people think justice is something that's based upon what they've learned and experienced and what people have told them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're about 5% right. And when we know a little bit about something, we think we know everything about it. All human beings, about whatever topic it is.
Yeah.
The problem is that you're about 5% right in these CPS cases, but you're 95% wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So you start focusing on stuff that's, it's in left field. It's not even in left field. It's in the parking lot someplace. You got to get back to home plate. Like, what inning of the game are you in? If rights are about to be terminated, you're in 8th or 9th inning. You better be focusing on the law, the procedure, and the evidence for that inning, not for what happened at the beginning of the case. Now, if you want to sue them in federal court for civil rights violations, you can do that, but that's not going to get you the kid back. A couple of years ago, I watched a trial in Los Angeles where they were suing for something that happened in the juvenile court. The jury awarded the mother millions of dollars, but they couldn't award the mother custody of her child back.
Wow.
You only get money when you sue for civil rights violations. And then the mother spent a couple of years trying to get the child back. A friend of mine was her attorney in family law court. And they couldn't even get the child back, even though they won the civil rights case.
That's wrong. That's just wrong. I don't know.
Well, you might say it's wrong morally and ethically.
Yeah.
Legally, it's right.
Yeah.
And I think
it shouldn't even legally be right. I don't feel like it shouldn't. I don't know.
But Tracy, with all due respect, let's get one thing straight.
Yeah.
If you're trying to win, let's not discuss about what you feel.
Yeah.
Let's discuss a strategy and implement it to get what you want.
Yeah.
Okay, because your feelings aren't going to matter at all to the judge.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Judge is looking at the law, the evidence, and making a decision what he or she thinks is best.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, the judges are being guided by the statutory framework, the law itself. You're not being guided by that because you're a civilian. You don't even know that. You don't even know what to be guided by.
Yeah. And, I notice a lot of times just going through this that the judge doesn't always get all the information You know,
Mm-mm.
they get part of the information. So they're making a judgment on half of the information. Even the CPS workers, they don't know me. I even offered her, I said, why don't you get to know me? Would you like me visit with me? Something, get to know me. I mean, or the foster mom. I talked to this foster mom. She's met with the caseworker twice total. Once was on the phone actually, and once was in person. You don't know these people, but you're going to let them adopt a child.
Mhm.
You know, all she knows, and you know what she told me when I offered to her to get to know me, she said, well, when I see your paperwork come back from Florida, if I have any questions, I'll give you a call. I'm like,
Yep.
you know, maybe you'd find out I was a decent person if you came around, you know, but they get half the information from CPS, and that CPS don't know. So the judge goes with whatever they've heard so far, I guess.
Well, it's not what they've heard, but what's been reported to them
Yeah.
by the social worker.
Yeah. And like some of it, I know, like in our case anyways, some of it is false information that they're, you
I
know,
think,
said the right thing, but
yeah, you know, that's not unusual. I hear that every day. You know, 5 to 10 times a day, people call me up and they tell me, well, the social workers either lied or mistaken.
yeah.
Most likely lied.
Yeah.
Not mistaken.
Well, let's try to be
caseworker on the case
100% lied. Yeah.
because, well, this is actually the second caseworker on the case because the first one left, or actually they put it as resigned because I guess falsifying documents, and I don't remember something else it was. I can't remember what the other one was.
Mhm.
And they did pull a couple of the cases and investigate them and stuff. One of them was one of my other grandson. But yeah, so there's a lot of issues going on there. But
And also, what about the different names? They had like a different name in the
yeah,
report. It's not
yeah,
even their name, and they put somebody else's name in there. Like, who the hell is Hernandez? You know, I'm not
yeah,
Hernandez.
they crossed out the one name and then put the other name in there
Mhm.
on the one of the. Just
Right.
you know, it's a lot
So
of
they copy and paste.
yeah.
Copy and paste.
No, literally pen. Crossed it out and
Oh,
then wrote
really?
it next to it in pen. Yeah. I was like, how does that work?
Hmm.
They don't have to answer to me, I guess so, but I asked, but
Tracy, you know, many years ago in Los Angeles, there was a cop who was convicted and sent to jail for falsifying police reports. Okay. They did an investigation on all of his cases, and the city of Los Angeles had to set up a fund, I think of about $300 million to cover all of the claims of people that had been convicted or gone to state prison because of this cop's, you know, misconduct. And I don't know if the cop ever confessed or whatever what happened, but it had tainted, you know, many cases in the system. And I find that unfortunately doesn't happen in CPS cases. And I could theorize and, you know, give you conspiracy theories about that, but it doesn't happen. You know, this happened maybe 2 decades ago. There was a judge who was having an affair with one of the social workers' attorneys that worked inside the courtroom. And the judge was making rulings on the cases where this attorney was the attorney, the opposing attorney, you know, was the attorney of record for the social worker.
yeah.
The judge ended up resigning or getting kicked off the bench, and then the state of California took away that attorney's license because of the conduct that he had participated in. Now, this was all in the newspaper, okay? The reason why I happened to know about it the first time was I actually had done cases in that courtroom in front of that judge and with that social worker attorney. I mean, I wouldn't say I knew them, but, you know.
It was kind of the same in our case too. The attorney that was on the case was actually has went to college and was friends with the judge, and also the attorney does some of the judge's accounting and stuff for him. So same kind of.
It's all about it's a God. This is just wow.
Yeah, it's just.
Wow.
One other question I do have too, if when the kids are in foster care, and if they're harmed in any way, well, like this is what happened. One of the children were harmed in foster care by this foster mother. They moved the children, and about a week and a half later, someone called me that I know in that town, and they're like, do you realize the two boys are over? And they tell me where they are. And I'm like, what? We didn't know what was going on. They didn't notify anyone, the parents, me, no one did they notify. So I got a hold of this foster parent because I knew who they were and asked them. And yeah, sure enough, the kids were over there. And it'd been a good week and a half at least, if not longer. And then also on top of that, these people that harmed him, they still have a foster license, and it was renewed in May after the incident and everything. Mm-hmm. There's no mention of it or anything. It's like it was hid.
Did this happen to your grandchild or someone you know? Yes.
No, my grandchild.
And they still have the child in their custody?
Nope. They took the child and brought him over to another foster home. They took it out of there, brought it to another foster home. But they never told we didn't know anything about it until about a week and a half later. Just someone that's not even related to the case called me and was like, do you realize your grandkids are over there? And that's how I found out. And I called those foster parents and said, are they there? And she's like, yeah. And they're still foster parents too.
They kind of put it under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on a second. I want to answer this question that's posted. Yeah. Thank you so much. I answered his question in the chat. Is there any special name for the appeal? No, there's no special name. It's just a juvenile court appeal. You have an attorney. You need to talk to that attorney about filing that appeal, that notice of appeal for you quickly. Now, Tracy, getting back to your story, I've talked about situations like that with many of my colleagues that do both CPS cases and civil rights cases. And a lot of people speculate, no evidence, it's speculation, that the reason why you can't get the child is because they want the foster parent to adopt, and they know the current foster parent won't sue them. Guess what's going to happen if they place the child with you? You're going to call up somebody like me, and we're going to go file a lawsuit against the county, and we're going to sue them. And we're going to be looking for millions of dollars. So it becomes a way to hide and protect themselves from liability. So the speculation goes. Mm-hmm. Why else wouldn't they want to give a child to the grandmother who's not a drug addict, who doesn't have any criminal record, who's a fine, upstanding member of the community? Why else? A long time ago, someone said it all has to do with money. Mm-hmm. Follow the money.
Yep.
So that could be the answer to your problem right there.
Yeah. So basically, the children become a number in the system.
Yeah.
A number. That's all it is. Just a number.
It's best interest of the money, not the best interest of the children.
I like that. I'm going to steal that from you. Best interest of the money.
Yep.
I really like that.
That's how it should be titled.
Yeah.
Not CPS, not Child Protective Services. No.
Yep.
No. And she has a great mom, by the way. Her mother is a little cutie. I mean, their great grandmother is a cutie. Yeah. I mean, I don't get it.
That was her phone ringing, though.
I know, but it's okay.
Listen, you haven't given up on trying to find an attorney, have you?
No, I'm still trying to get enough money. That's the biggest problem. It's just the money, really. And, I was hoping like they do pro bono people. You see on TV, pro bono stuff. So I'm like on there trying to get a hold of people. No.
All right. So you said you had 100 questions. We just did one. What's your next one?
Oh gosh, I gotta look. I don't know. Remember them all.
How you contest an adoption? That's
Oh
one.
yes. Can I contest like that adoption of the foster parent?
You know, that's an interesting question. If you were in California, I'm going to tell you what I would do in California because I'm only licensed in California, not Minnesota. But the answer is technically yes, but it would have to be what's called, in my opinion, a collateral attack by filing a lawsuit. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the problem is that that's hard to win, hard to prevail on, right? Now, in the California Family Code, there are provisions or ways that you can set aside an adoption that has taken place. So I'm sure that in, your state or Minnesota, there's probably laws about setting aside an adoption. And, that's why you would have to talk to a Minnesota attorney about that. But if you were in California, you could. Now, that doesn't mean that you'd win, right?
Yeah.
Can you? Yeah, you can try. You can try almost about anything, but that doesn't mean you're going to win. And I don't know enough about the facts of your case and the circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, here's another question from, am I pronouncing it right? Jesus Aguilar. What if I don't have an attorney and I'm in California? Well, you have an attorney that is appointed to you by the court. So you need to talk to that attorney and see if they can help you with that 388 petition that you wanted to file to try to stop the adoption. Okay, give me another question, ladies.
Okay, so how do you go about if you feel they violated your civil rights? How do you go about suing them on that? And
Okay.
and should I, if I am going to do something like that, should I wait till the case is over, all the way over, and hope I don't make them mad and get the grandkids? Or, I mean, because they've already violated them more than once. So
Right. So I don't know enough about the case to tell you that, whether you should wait or not. But the first thing you should do is consult. And most of the time you can get a free consultation from a civil rights attorney in your area.
okay,
Yep.
should I do it in Minnesota? A civil rights attorney in Minnesota, right?
Yeah, because the violations from what you've told me so far are happening in Minnesota.
Yeah.
They're not happening in Florida, for sure.
No.
Yeah, and they're surely not happening in California. So Minnesota is where the case is and where the social workers are who are doing all of these bad acts.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next question.
Well, you were saying, I heard, no, you said something about federal. When you do the civil rights thing, there's a federal and the state, right? Should I even just do the federal? I mean, I watched it on one of your other shows. And I can't remember how you explained it, but there was a federal way to go about it and a state one. And you were saying the federal one was best, but what was the name? Who do you contact? Just any civil rights attorney? Or is there like because I know when you were talking about the state, you were saying you fill out this paperwork and then the state investigates and then comes back to you and tells you you're going to have to sue us, basically. So then you get an attorney. But is there someone else you have to contact federally?
No.
Before you get the attorney?
No. So you would want to contact a civil rights attorney in your area, and he or she will best decide whether you should file a federal civil rights case or a state civil rights case.
Okay.
Remember from civics, there's two judicial systems in every state. There's the state judicial system in Minnesota, and then there's the federal judicial system, right?
Yep.
And the federal judicial system, the history of that was, it was established to help protect citizens from their own state government.
Okay.
Right? Will Minnesota, screw over their own citizens? Possibly. And if they do, one of the places you might want to go is you might want to go to the federal court in Minnesota for protection.
Okay.
Next question.
So, okay, so how do I probably don't have it right. I heard you say this the other day and it really bothered me. You said that once my son's rights are terminated, none of us are related anymore.
Yeah. That's one of the saddest things about this system.
Yeah.
But in Minnesota, either they're talking seriously about it or they've actually done something about it to change that law.
Okay.
Where if the parents' rights are terminated, grandma's still grandma.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but I don't know if that law passed.
Well, that's what I was worried about him maybe bringing that up in court because their rights are terminated. So technically they could use that in court probably and be like, you ain't even related anymore. You know?
Oh, they definitely will use that.
Yeah.
They definitely will use that against you. But you know what? There's a guy in Minnesota. He's not an attorney, but he was a father that was a victim of CPS, and he's a big time advocate and activist against Minnesota CPS. And he was at the spearheading changing a lot of laws in Minnesota, like the one I just mentioned. You know, if the parental rights are terminated, well, that doesn't mean grandma's rights are terminated. Because in California, if the mother and father's rights are terminated, grandma ain't grandma anymore. Yeah. Grandma is just a stranger.
That's just legally. So wrong.
Okay, but you know, again, you and I both know that. You don't have to say that. Let's focus on winning, not what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the law is not what you think it is. It's not. And I just
there is no justice, though. You don't go to court thinking you're going to gain justice. It's not such thing.
True. Not true. Georgette, there is justice. It's just not what you thought it was.
Well, it's wrong. Theirs is wrong. Sorry, there should be a little heart.
I have no comment.
There should be a little bit of heart in with the law.
Yeah, and you're laughing saying that, okay? Because I was just like, come on.
I know there isn't, but there should
believe in yourself at this moment.
See, there should be some compassion and heart in there.
There is no compassion. There is no heart. There is no common sense. Common sense is not even taught in their schools and their big colleges. You know, common sense is common sense. But there is none. And the thing with judges is they can't even tell a lie from the truth when it's in front of them because they don't study psychology. They don't know the person in front of them. They can't read body language.
Let us write the law. Me and Georgetta will write the law and there'll be some heart in it.
Yep.
Now, Tracy, you just mentioned something that's near and dear to my heart. Mm-hmm. Do you know how you write the laws?
No, but I can figure it out. With a lot of heart, hopefully. I would. No.
Ms. Truan, what did you say?
Vote for judges. Vote them out.
Yeah, and I didn't even know that until I heard you say that. Until I've heard your videos saying that. I didn't even really realize, connect that judges would be something, I didn't realize that.
I didn't even used to vote for judges until Vincent mentioned it.
I never did.
Now I am studying every judge. I know their background. I will vote your butt out.
I will too from now on because I've never voted for a judge.
So ladies, this is what we're doing right now. Mm-hmm. We're organizing state by state, county by county, and we need people to volunteer to be state captains or county captains so that we can get the word out and vote together. You know,
right here.
Yeah.
Vote for laws to change laws. Mm-hmm. Vote to change judges that are more family friendly. The power that you have, Tracy, and it's the ultimate power, is the vote. It's the vote. Now,
you never hear anyone saying anything about voting for judges. All you ever hear is about the president or the sheriff, never the judge. I mean, I've never even thought about it until I heard you talking about it.
Right. Well, I don't know what it is in your state, but in California, this is the way it goes down. You can become a judge by appointment by the governor, but then you have to run for re-election. Or you can be elected as a judge, right? And you still have to face re-election.
And sometimes the governor doesn't make the right choice either. So,
Well, we're all human. I'm sure mistakes are made sometimes, but
It's more, Vincent. When they elect for a judge, they know this person.
you know,
Believe me when I tell you that. I speak from experience.
okay. So when this whole thing went down with President Trump and the judges that he was trying to get appointed, you know, so it matters who's governor. It matters who the legislator is from your district. It matters. It matters who you elect as judge. It matters. Now, Tracy, I don't want you to answer this, and Georgetta, I don't want you to answer this. But when's the last time you voted? When's the last time you voted for a judge? Most people I talk to don't even know in California that you can vote for judges. Or they do what Georgette used to do. They skip that part of the ballot.
Yeah, I used all the time. I'm 51 years old, or never voted for a judge.
So
I never even heard about voting for a judge until now.
So these are things that we have to get out there and make people aware of. Yeah. Imagine if you were in Minnesota and you were leading a group of people that had 1 million votes.
Yeah.
You think you could change some laws or force change?
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
I wish we could vote for the CPS workers too.
Well, you know who controls CPS workers, at least in California.
One?
Oh, there is oversight. Believe it or not, there's supposed to be oversight. So in California, this is the oversight. The oversight is twofold. Number one, it's oversight at the state level, the Department of Social Services. Number two, oversight by the Board of Supervisors in each county. And number three, oversight, and this is probably the most important one, by the federal government, by the Department of Health and Human Services, or the U.S. Justice Department Civil Rights Division. So there's oversight, but I will bet $1 that you didn't know that until I just told you that tonight.
No. I knew that. I heard that the governor did govern them, as someone told me, or something like that, but I never knew there was more than that human service one. I didn't know about any of those.
Right.
Of course, no one wants to tell you anything because they don't want to get in trouble. So,
well, here's a question that popped up. Nicole Larson says, "Can you vote for judges if you are a felon?" That's an interesting question because the rule was if you were a convicted felon, you used to couldn't vote at all. Right? That was one of the things about being a convicted felon. But some states are changing that, from what I understand. And in some states, depending on where you are, you would be able to vote if you were a convicted felon, if they've changed those laws. Now, but here's the important thing. Let's say you're a convicted felon. You can still help the process through campaigning and education of those that can vote. All right? So just because you're a convicted felon, don't give up on helping, or being an activist. I was watching on television the other night. I don't know if it was on CNN or where this was, on Netflix someplace. There's a story about Barack Obama. I learned so much about him that I didn't know. He started off as a community activist. And he rose through the ranks, and he ended up going to law school and all that kind of stuff. But his roots are in Chicago, although that's not where he's from originally, but in community activism. So look where it got him, right? I don't care if you support him or don't support him. The guy was president. I mean, he must have been doing something right. I say the same thing about Trump. I don't care what you think about him. Look, the guy was president. He must have been doing something right.
Yeah.
But, start with activism. We talk, we go blah, 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 blah. But what are we really doing? We doing anything about it? Or are we just going to complain? Because if we're just going to complain, nothing's ever going to change.
Yeah. I think the biggest problem is people don't know how to make that change, And I do have one more question for you before we run out of time or anything.
Sure, go ahead.
So besides getting a lawyer, because I know that is a good thing and important, but not everyone can afford a lawyer. What else, what else can we do? I mean, to help ourselves?
Education.
Go back to school?
No. Trying to educate yourself about, CPS laws and procedures and evidence and that type of thing. I say that because that's the only other thing you can do.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be effective, right? But at least you're trying.
Yeah.
And I've known, or at least have heard of through friends, people that were civilians, non-lawyers, that have made changes in how CPS cases are conducted. I'll give you an example. There was a mother who was a CPS victim in Northern California. I won't mention the county. But she figured out something that even I didn't know at that time. And this was maybe 7 years ago. She figured out that it was not as complex as you might have imagined to recall a judge. To basically, impeach a judge, recall that person and get them off the bench. She successfully caused 2 judges in her county to resign. And they were 2 judges. I think one of them was her judge on her CPS case. She got enough signatures to place the recall of a judge, a county judge or a California judge, on the ballot. It just takes signatures. Now, it takes a lot of work to get signatures, right? You've got to get the signatures. Then they put it on the ballot. So the rumor is, and I don't know this to be a fact, that the judges, instead of facing the recall vote, they resigned. And I'm told that they resigned because if they faced the recall vote and they were in fact recalled, that there was some type of financial penalty. I'm not sure about that, but that's what I was told. What I do know, I do know that the judges did resign from the bench, or they, quote unquote, retired. Maybe didn't resign, but they retired. So people can cause change. People can make a difference. And that's one of the things through these different shows that I do. I always talk about this because we're really trying to not just talk about it, but be about it. Help people organize from state to state, county to county. And let's put our votes together. Let's put our votes together and try to do something. Tracy, if you can still hear me,
there it is. Oh,
I have a question. Well, not a question, but
go ahead.
I have something to share. Okay, is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right. So, grandparents in Orange County, they have Ring cameras in their home, and the social worker, when the social worker was there, she told them that they have to move to another state in order for the grandkids to go with them. They bought a house in another state, and then the social worker changed her mind and told them that's not true. You're not getting your kids. They said, but wait a minute. You told us, right, that you said that if we bought a house in Arizona and leave Orange County, we're going to get our grandkids. And now you're telling us you don't want to transfer the case to Arizona. So she said, no, she didn't say that. Then they said, you were on camera because they have the Ring camera in their house.
Right.
So she said the judge is not going to accept, and it's on camera. She actually texted me the recording. It's on camera. And I couldn't believe it. So she said, is there something we can do about it? What can we do to the house that we bought in another state?
Well,
and that's 2 different grandparents who told me this, by the way. 2 different grandparents who both of them lived in Orange County.
Was it the same social worker?
Yep.
So 2 different cases, the same social worker tells the grandparents that?
They have to move to a different state. And then she said that recording is not permitted in court.
Okay, so let me address that, okay, in California. I'm giving you the California rule, may be different in your state.
Yep.
If you record someone and you don't tell them or they don't know that they're being recorded, it's not admissible in any type of case. Now, there are some exceptions. There are some exceptions. I would have to do some research to see if that falls in any exceptions. But if they have the Ring camera and they had some type of sign on the door or in the house that says, these premises are being videotaped, that might be enough notice to be able to use it.
Some of them tell them to shut the camera off if they see that sign.
Right. Of course.
Most of them.
Wouldn't you?
If I have nothing to hide, why would I want them to shut the camera off? If I have nothing to hide, if I'm going to be telling the truth, if I'm going to be honest, why would I care if I'm being recorded or not?
Well, we're talking about social workers, right?
Exactly. So why are they so concerned about recording when they know they're telling the truth? Let's be real here. I know there's no justice. I know there's no common sense, but that's just some BS. It's just BS. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I'm speaking for the people and myself. It's BS.
Well, all you need to do is turn on the news, CNN, Fox, MSNBC.
Tracy agrees.
And you see things that are unfair every day that have nothing to do with CPS.
But it has not. No. CPS is the worst crime there is in the United States of America.
I agree.
The worst freaking crime.
Yep.
And I'm speaking my mind on this, and I'm speaking from my heart and soul, because people don't deserve this crap. They don't. There's good parents out there. There's a prostitute that gets her child back in 3 months, while a good mother and a good grandmother is fighting for their kids for dear life. That's not right. I understand there's no justice, but damn, put some common sense into this.
Okay, I respect your opinion, but here's my question. What are you going to do about it?
Vote. We're going to have to all vote. We have to, all the nation, the United States have to rally. They have to get together. We have to get together and vote. Vote them out. We can't just sit here and not do anything about it. I started a page. I'm not finished completing it yet. But I want everybody to vote. And I want everybody to be passionate, because you're not the only grandmother. You're not going to be the last grandmother. And there's so many out there who are good people. Good people. And they don't deserve that. So Tracy, I will let you know about my page, and we can discuss that together. Okay. Maybe in your state you can do something. We can combine it together, and we can really do something about it. Because this BS has to stop. Mm-hmm. This is worse than just going shooting someone, to be honest with you. It is. A child from you is the worst pain that there is.
And they don't even, it's like they have no heart. I mean, because there's no reason for them to do this to me. I did nothing wrong. So
I know you didn't. I know you didn't.
Outright just.
And I had a chance to speak with you and your mother. And you guys are great people, man. I can't process that.
And this was just like not too long ago that they passed all these new laws that they only have so much time to do all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Back years ago, I know with that kind of stuff, they worked with the parents and helped the parents get to.
When was this? That was when? 1979?
Well, no, I'm not that old, but I'm that old. I mean, no, I'm thinking like back in the 80s, because I know I was a young mother, and one came to my home because one of the ladies said my kid was improperly dressed for the weather. They came in, they checked my house, they talked to me, everything. They thought everything was fine. No lies, no nothing, didn't make anything up. But now it just seems like now that there's so much money involved that it's just gone crazy. I mean, and
Nancy Schaefer, even the senator, God rest her soul, she exposed them. She was exposing them for the longest time before she was murdered.
Why are they getting money for doing anything? This is their job. Do your job. No extra money anywhere, you know?
Exactly. It's just sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad. It's just very, very, very sad. So that's why we should all get together and stop them. And the only way to do this is by voting them out.
Yeah.
And we want to be heard. We're going to make sure we are heard all over the United States, by the way. Perhaps all over the world. We don't know.
Yep.
All right, ladies, I hate to interrupt you guys, but we've run out of time. Before we say goodnight, I want to remind everyone that tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific time, we have Amanda Cisco will be joining me for another show called Fight CPS, The Civil Rights Struggle. And that's about civil rights claims and cases against social workers in counties. So please tune in tomorrow. I want to thank Tracy. I want to thank you for being a special guest tonight. And always, Miss Georgette Truman, thank you for being the co-host. And I want to say good night to everyone. We'll see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m.
All right.
Good night. Bye,
Good night.
Tracy.
Good night. Bye.